Namaste and welcome to Tridevi Chamunda Mandir in Denver, Colorado. I'm Yamajit. I'm so glad you could join me. And I need to apologize that we're starting about 20 minutes late from what I originally announced. Just some things going on the home front. So thank you for joining me, and that includes anybody who is watching this broadcast, the recording of it later. So welcome to part 23 of our series of meditations of the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. This is the last installment of this series. We have gone through the entire scripture. So I'd like to go through some announcements first. So this coming Friday at 7 o'clock will be our fourth installment of Modern Job Practice for the West. This is part 4. And we're going to be doing a practice very similar to the last one, only I'm going to invite the participants to meditate specifically on some physical symptom or condition. And the purpose of that will be to explore any psychological sides to a particular physical condition. And then next Tuesday at 7 o'clock, we're going to begin a new series. I'm putting the finishing touches on my 4th book, Kali Meditation, Book 4, Daily Sadhanas based on the lineage of Kriya Yoga. And so I'm going to be doing a series on the practices that are outlined in that book. And one of the reasons why I'm doing that is I'm putting in illustrations for things like yoga sequences. I would like to include YouTube URLs for demonstrations of those practices. So this will be an opportunity to experience the material in my upcoming book firsthand before it's even published. So definitely looking forward to that. So I'd like to begin with a short warm-up meditation. So I invite you at this time to sit down comfortably. Find a position where your back can be straight. You can be sitting on your mat or on a cushion or in a straight back chair. I invite you to close your eyes and breathe deeply. Just deep, slow, yogic breaths, completely filling and emptying the lungs. Clearing your mind and preparing for this first experience. First of 2 final meditations for this series. And as you breathe and you become more relaxed, I invite you to contemplate the idea that the knower, yourself, and the known, the universe for which we are all part, are one and the same. The knower and the known are one. You and the universe are one. The knower and the known are one. You and the universe are one. Breathe and contemplate this. And just be aware of what feelings or thoughts these words invoke for you. The knower and the known are one. You and the universe are one. The knower and the known are one. You and the universe are one. And begin to think to yourself, I and my experience are one. I and my experience are one. Repeat these words to yourself. I and my experience are one. I and my experience are one and the same. And again, just be aware of what those words induce within you. Emotions, feelings, thoughts, images. I and my experience are one and the same. All things are revealed by knowledge of the self, and the self is revealed by all things. Their nature being the same, one should contemplate that the knower and the known are one and the same. Practice thinking about the knower and the known, O beloved. When mind, intellect, energy, and limited self vanish, then appears the wonderful Bhairava. Those are verses 137 and 138 of the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. And meditation 112 of 112 meditations. So I invite you to take a deep and clearing breath, letting go of that meditation, checking in with yourself, just feeling the effects of the practice that we've just done. And when you feel ready, I invite you to slowly open your eyes, keeping your eyes at a relaxed gaze. So this teaching that the knower and the known are one. The subject and the object are one. The experiencer and the experienced are one. The self and the universe are one, is perhaps the most famous of all tantric non-dual teachings. And again, this is the final of 112 meditations of the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, the final meditation before presenting the culminating practice. And so this idea that we and the surrounding universe are one has really been a recurring theme throughout the scripture. And so before I go on to share the final verses of the Tantra and the final practice, I'd like to make a couple of important acknowledgments. One is the Swiss tantric writer and teacher Daniel Odier, um, whose translation of the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra is my favorite. You can find it in the back of his work on the Yoga Spandakarika. And then I'd also like to acknowledge Lee Lyon and his book, 112 Meditations from the Book of Divine Wisdom. And this work was the inspiration to how I presented many of these meditations from the scriptures. So to recap just a little bit, the previous series before I began this one more than 23 weeks ago, I did a series on the goddesses of the Trika Tantric lineage. This ancient lineage from 1,000 years ago, centered around the devotion of the white goddess Pada, the red goddess Pada, and the black goddess Apada, and how they represent three divine functions of Icha Shakti, the power of will, Jnana Shakti in the case of red Pada, power of knowledge, and Kriya Shakti, the power of action, symbolized by the black goddess Apada. And so after I finished that series, it just seemed a wonderful opportunity to go into this current series, really exploring the most accessible of the surviving scriptures of this tradition, the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. And like many of the tantric scriptures, this particular scripture is set up as a dialogue between Lord Bhairava, the wrathful Shiva, and Bhairavi, his Shakti, his female counterpart. And so the scripture was structured with Shakti asking Shiva these various questions about the nature of the universe and the nature of devotion. And the way that the Tantra reads, it's almost like Lord Shiva, Lord Bhairava, is sitting for an exam. And what is really associated with this is the idea that we ourselves are Lord Bhairava. We ourselves are Shiva. And just like Kali standing upon Shiva, we can see that over here in this sculpture as well. Shiva is like a corpse. We are like corpses ourselves until we open ourselves to that divine energy, that divine presence, that divine Shakti. And we become conduits for that energy. And that's what happens to Lord Bhairava in this Tantra, is he is allowing her wisdom to flow through him. So one more meditation to present and to practice tonight, culminating practice of the scripture, the Hamsa meditation. But to set the stage, I'm going to read some additional verses, beginning with verse 139. And so this is Lord Bhairava, Lord Shiva speaking. O goddess, I just taught you 112 meditations. One who knows them escapes from dualistic thought and attains to perfect knowledge. One who realizes one single of these practices becomes Bhairava himself. His word gets enacted and he attains the power to transmit the Shakti at will. O goddess, the being who masters one single of these practices frees himself from old age and death. He acquires supernormal powers. All yogini and yogin cherish him, and he presides over their secret meetings, liberated in the very middle of activity and reality. And in reality, he is free. And the goddess, Bhairava, said, O Lord, let us follow this wonderful reality that is the nature of the Supreme Shakti, who then is worshipped. Who is the worshipper? Who enters contemplation? Who is contemplated? Who gives the oblation and who receives it? What gets sacrificed and to whom? O gazelle-eyed one, all these practices are those of the external path. They fit gross aspirations. Only the contemplation of the highest reality is the practice of the Tantrika. What resonates spontaneously in oneself is the mystical formula. A stable and characterless mind, there is true contemplation, colorful visualizations of divinities, and nothing but artifice. The worship does not consist in offerings, but in the realization that the heart is supreme consciousness, free from dualistic thought. In perfect ardor, Shiva Shakti dissolve into the self. If one penetrates one single element of the yoga described here, one will know a plenitude spreading from day to day to reach the highest perfection. When one casts into fire of supreme reality the five elements, the senses and their objects, the dualistic mind, and even vacuity, then there is true offering to the gods. Verses 150 and 151. O Supreme Goddess, here the sacrifice is nothing else than spiritual satisfaction characterized by bliss. The real pilgrimage, O Parvati, is the absorption in the Shakti which destroys all stains and protects all beings. How could there be another kind of worship, and who would be worshipped? The essence of the self is universal. It is autonomy, bliss, and consciousness. Absorption in the essence is the ritual bath. 153, 154, and 155 coming up. Offerings, devotee, supreme Shakti are but one. This is supreme devotion. Breath comes out. Breath comes in. Sinuous in self, perfectly tuned to the breath, Kundalini, O great goddess, rise up, transcendent and immanent. She is the highest place of pilgrimage. Thus, deeply established in the right of the great bliss, fully present to the rise of divine energy, thanks to the goddess, the yogin will attain Supreme Bhairava. Going into 156. Air is exhaled with a sound of sa, and inhaled with a sound of hum. Then reciting the mantra Hamsa is continuous breath. This is the mantra, repeated 21,000 times a day and night. It is the mantra of the great goddess. So with 156, I'm going to break from the Tantra for a moment, and I'm going to read an excerpt from my last book, Kali Meditation, Book 3, describing this meditation. The mantra Hamsa or Soham roughly translates to I am that, or I am here. And it is similar in form to the Gurumukhi mantra Sat Nam from the Kundalini Yoga tradition. As stated before, the mantra of breath is practiced 21,000 times each day. It sustains life and can be harnessed to access divine consciousness. The mantra of inhalation is hum, and it is associated with the Trika goddess Padapada, the power of Jnana Shakti, knowledge. The sound Sa, the exhalation mantra, embodied as the goddess Apada, the power of Kriya Shakti, or action. So Hum is the red goddess, Pada. Sa is the black goddess of action, Apada. In the act of breathing, there are brief pauses between inhalation and exhalation, points where Shakti energy is concentrated, and these relate to the supreme goddess, the white goddess Pada, the power of will, or Icha Shakti. According to the 20th century sage Ganesh Baba, also known as Swami Ganeshananda, this practice and others relate to the sacred science of Kriya Yoga, and this consists of 4 parts: posture, sitting with a straight spine; pranayam, deep yogic breath while focusing on the movement of prana up and down the central channel of the spine, known as Shushumna; pinealization, the eyes are closed and focused on the third eye center; and pranavmentation, the use of mantra. Hamsa meditation is sometimes referred to as baby kriya because it's sometimes used in Kriya Yoga classes as an introductory exercise. And for this reason, it's utilized as a spiritual yoga practice also unto itself as well, in addition to being a preparation exercise for other Kriya-related practices. And so and really when you see this as the culminating rite in the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, it really is meant to be practiced as a sadhana unto itself, and a sadhana that will achieve amazing things for you. So I mentioned this in this section of my third book. The next book in the series will present practices based on those of the Kriya Yoga lineage, hence bringing us into our next series starting next week. In this technique, we become aware of the 3 aspects of feminine divinity, resulting in the rediscovery of those same divine forces within ourselves. Through such awareness, we begin to channel divine will through our thoughts, words, and actions, hence working in a co-creative role with the Divine Mother. There's that Shakti working through us. This is the objective for this and all other sadhanas. So let's practice the Hamsa meditation. So I invite you to sit in a comfortable meditative position with your spine straight. Maybe roll the shoulders back to open the chest. Your hands should be resting comfortably in your lap. You may use a mudra of your choice, such as Gyan Mudra, thumb touching the forefinger if you wish. I invite you to close your eyes. Take a few full yogic breaths to prepare. Relax your body and relax your mind. Breathing deeply in preparation. And then gently focus your gaze behind your closed eyes, slightly upward, toward Ajna Chakra, your third eye. And begin to visualize a dark, inverted triangle surrounded by golden light. Using your imagination is fine in time, and with practice, you'll actually be able to see it. So now we're going to begin spinal breathing. As you inhale, feel energy descending down your central channel, Sushumna Nadi, from the crown chakra of your head to the root at the base of the spine. And as you inhale, you're going to mentally repeat the mantra Hum. The quality of energy traveling down Sushumna as you inhale should be cool, in nature. With each exhalation, then, feel a warm energy ascending Sushumna from the root at the base of the spine to the crown of the head. And while you're exhaling, mentally repeat the mantra Sa. So inhaling Hum, bringing the energy down. Exhaling Sa, bringing the energy up. And in between each inhalation and exhalation, there should be a slight pause of 1 or 2 seconds. So inhaling Hum, energy down, slight pause. Exhaling Sa, energy up, slight pause. Hum, inhale. Sa, exhale. Hum, inhale. Sa, exhale. Hum, inhale. Sa, exhale. I invite you to continue for the next few minutes. Now take a deep and clearing breath, relaxing the gaze behind your closed eyes and letting go of the mantras. Let your breath return to normal and just meditate in silence for a while. Just appreciating this place of stillness and silence that the meditation has brought you into. And just take a moment and notice how you're feeling at the moment. The effects of the meditation. And take a moment to thank the Divine Mother for her guidance. And give gratitude to yourself for taking part in this practice. And then as you feel ready, I invite you to take another deep and clearing breath and slowly open your eyes. So this is a meditation that you can practice. I would recommend starting at 5 to 10 minutes in length. We did about a 5 to 6 minute meditation just now. And slowly increasing the time as the practice becomes more comfortable. You can do this for even up to an hour. Although 20 minutes tends to be a good length of time to practice this and other meditations. Longer than this, there's very often a tendency for one's mind to drift away from the moment. When practicing Hamsa, you may find yourself entering into what's called the breathless state, where the breath actually ceases for a short time and you feel very deeply relaxed. Part of this is due to the fact you're increasing the amount of oxygen in your blood. And if this happens, this is actually a sign that the practice is being done correctly. So there's many possible benefits to this practice in addition to increased relaxation and an enhanced perception of the divine nature of all things surrounding you and within yourself, which of course is the goal of tantric practice. You may also find yourself receiving flashes of valuable insight during this meditation, and when off the mat, you may notice similar insights and may notice yourself handling situations a little bit differently and hopefully in a little more balanced manner than you have before. Information may also come to you in dreams. Opportunities may arise. The right teacher for what you need may suddenly come, or maybe even the right book may find its way into your hand. The possibilities are endless. I'd like to share a verse from probably the best known sage of the Trika lineage, sage Abhinavagupta, who wrote in chapter 30, verse 71 of his book Tantra Loka, means light on the Tantras. Hamsa, the great mantra of enchantment, eternally shines bright and protects against decay. It penetrates the center of the universe. It is the Shakti of the all-pervading vibration. And so it's probably very safe to assume that what we just did here was the central practice of the Trika lineage. And those phases of breath personified by the three goddesses, Pada, Pada, and Apada. So I'm going to conclude by reading the final verses of the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, verses 157 to 160. And this is Lord Bhairava speaking. O goddess, I just gave you the ultimate unsurpassed mystical teachings. Let them only be taught to generous beings, to those who revere the master's lineage, to the intuitive minds freed from cognitive wavering and doubt, and to those who practice them. For without practice, transmission gets diluted, and those who had the wonderful opportunity to receive these teachings return to the suffering and illusion, even though they have held an eternal treasure in their hands. O God, I have now grasped the heart of the teachings. This is Shakti speaking, and the quintessence of Tantra. This life will have to be left behind, but why renounce the heart of the Shakti? As space is by sun rays, so is Shiva told through the energy of Shakti, which is the essence of the self. And then Shiva and Shakti, glowing in bliss, merged again into the undifferentiated. Jema. Om Namah Shivaya. Jemata Di. I invite you to bring the palms of your hands together at your heart center for our final benedictions. Om Sarvamangala Mangalye Shiva Svada Sadike Saranye Trambake Devi Naryane Namostute. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sana Bhavatu Sana Bunaktu Saviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvidyavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste. Blessings always. Jai Mata Di. And thank you so very much for joining me. So I hope that you'll practice this or other meditations from this series that have spoken to you, and let them be your pathway to that divine oneness. And I look forward to you joining me Friday, 7 o'clock, for part 4 of our series on chill practice. You can join us here on YouTube or in person at our temple, 1260 South Xavier Street in Denver, Colorado. Till then, Jai Ma, and good night.